Hey guys, so not too long ago I told you about a problem I had with LAX ammo, and the problem was two parts. First of all, I had cases that were splitting, and it was a significant percentage of cases that were rupturing when fired, and that was my initial complaint. And I went back to the company, I talked to them, and we went back and forth, and it seemed like it took forever for them to respond, and many times they didn't respond, and I would have to reach back out to them and say, hey, what's going on? And so the second part of that became a customer service issue. I really was complaining more about their lack of customer service and lack of attentiveness than anything else. And so my philosophy is generally that anything can have a problem. You know, I worked in manufacturing for a number of years. So anything you buy that is made can have a defect, or there can be a problem in the process, or you know, people can be having a bad day or whatever. Doesn't make it great, doesn't make it right, but I'm a lot more forgiving of that than I am of bad customer service. There's just no excuse for that. So that was really my complaint. However, my video did cause a lot of concern and some question about the quality of the ammo, and rightfully so. Good news is LAX has made things right. They have sent me replacement ammo. I returned the defective stuff. They sent me replacement ammo. They even sent me some extra, and I am going to test that today. Now, one of the questions that people were asking me, and I don't know if I ever really answered it because I kind of wanted to wait until now, but one of the questions people were asking me was, what did you use to shoot the gun? I think that people were looking for other possibilities. A lot of people thought maybe I shot it through a Glock, and that was the problem. You know, that whole unsupported chamber issue. And a lot of people wanted to blame that. Well, what I shot most of that ammo through was this gun right here. This is the High Point Model 1095 10mm carbine. This is the one that I was shooting when I was experiencing all those ruptured cases. So I'm going to start, obviously, with this guy. But then I'm going to shoot a couple of Glocks. I'm going to shoot a Glock 40. I'm going to shoot a Glock 29. I'm going to shoot a Sig Sauer P220 in 10mm. And just for fun, since one long gun isn't enough, let's shoot a crisp Vector. So my goal today is to put a whole bunch of 10mm rounds downrange, and I'm going to stop intermittently and inspect the brass. I'm certainly going to inspect the brass for each firearm that I shoot initially so that we can segregate those out, and if we do have a problem, we can also identify the firearm that was used. This is not intended to be in any way scientific. I am not a scientist. I'm just a putz that likes to shoot. But I do like to be methodical, and if there's a problem or a question, I do like to try and answer it. So let's get at it, shall we? Okay, starting out with the High Point 1095 10mm. And right off the bat, it doesn't want to feed very well. All right, nice. All right, I took a quick look at 3 or 4 of the rounds, and they looked fine, the expended brass. Let's keep going. Okay, so far so good. I don't see any brass with any kind of cracks or damages in them. One thing worth noting too is that the brass that I did have the problem with had an odd head stamp. I forget what it said, Pro something or whatever. This stuff is head stamped LAX. And it is my understanding that they did have a supplier problem. So, looks like we've got the good stuff today. Okay, magazine number 4. This will be 40 rounds. I'm so good at math, it is not even funny. All right. Well, the stuff is definitely shooting nice. That's for sure. A lot of people presumed that maybe I was shooting a Glock is why I had the problem with the LAX 10mm. Well, I wasn't shooting it through a Glock, but I'm going to today. I want to make sure it works just like it's supposed to through everything I might want to shoot it through. And this is the Glock 40 MOS. Also gives me an opportunity to try and zero in this hollow sun a little bit on this gun. Well, I'm pretty happy with where that, the sight is right now. So I think I can speed up a little bit. But what about a smaller Glock? Glock 29. This is the baby Glock of 10mm in the Glock family, or the 10mm of baby Glocks in the Glock family, whichever way you want to look at it. It is the smallest 10mm you can get in Glock, and it's usually a handful, but the good news is the LAX ammo is not really super high power 10mm. You know, some people will even criticize it for being light, but to me, it makes great range 10mm. Good fun to shoot, and you still know you're shooting something. Kind of strikes that balance, and that's really, it's kind of my baseline for the hand loads that I make, so for whatever that's worth. Aha, man. It's just fun, just plain fun. And the ejected cases look very much like they did coming out of the 40. Clean. You can see a little tiny bit of swell at the base. Not too terrible, but nothing unexpected. And I don't yet see any cracks or splits. I will look more closely. Just so we'll have a good comparison, I'm going to run a box of Federal American Eagle. Also 180 grain, round nose flat point, 10mm. And I'm going to run a couple mags each through this high point 1095 and through the Glock 40. Just see if there's any difference in the way the cases look. Preliminary looks just about exactly the same. The Glock 40 now with the Federal American Eagle. And the cases from the Glock look same as cases from the Glock on the LAX. So I don't see any difference in the brass between the Federal and the LAX, and I didn't feel a whole lot of difference in the shooting, and the accuracy looked about the same too. So pretty equal. Okay, while I'm doing handguns, I would be quite remiss to not bring out probably my very, very favorite 10mm handgun, the Sig Sauer P220, 5-inch. This one, unlike, I'm going to start out double action because that's what I can do with this one. But unlike either one of those Glocks, there's a little bit of weight here. This is a heavy handgun. It ought to handle this LAX ammo quite nicely. Good stuff. And if you don't got one of these, you need to get one of these. I'm going to have to walk like 50 feet to go get the spent cases out of the Sig. That Sig, man, it just throws them. Okay, just for fun, 10 rounds of my hand loads through the Glock 40. Okay, let's not do that again without hearing protection. And that, boys and girls, is why we wear Ear Pro. I'm so used to wearing the inside the ear stuff that I just didn't even notice I wasn't wearing them. But I have found, I've done that a few times in my life, as I'm sure you have too, if you go to the range very often. But it's funny how you never take a second shot, do you? All right, now, where was I? What's that ringing? Somebody want to get the phone? Okay, next up. Yeah, sorry. Had a Peter Brady moment there. I'm not sure if I saved the best for last, but I can certainly say last but not least, and that is the Chris Vector in 10mm. And it, of course, takes Glock magazines, so makes it nice. Of course, this throws the brass forward, so I'm going to have to go that way to go get these and look at them in a bit. All right, here's where all those rounds have been going, if you're wondering. First, let's take a look here. This is the LAX. This was through the Glock 40. So I was trying to see if I had a decent zero on that Holosun optic. So that's why I chose this target. So that was a couple of mags worth of the LAX ammo through the Glock 40. And this was the Federal through the Glock 40 also. So the shot placement is a little bit different, but their group size very similar. Actually, if anything, I think maybe that LAX gave me better results. And the rest of everything else went into this guy. Okay, and just for fun, 10 rounds of my hand loads through the high point. Good stuff. You thought you were gonna get away without me doing that, didn't you? Okay, so what we have in front of us here are some extracted brass from the test, and my, doesn't this look sciencey? All laid out there on nice white cotton cloth with labels and everything. But remember, it's not real science. It's just me pretending that it's real science. I was most interested in the cases that came out of the High Point 1095 because I know that that's what the previous brass that had the cracks came from. So I really was thorough in examining those. Even the first magazine I shot, I stopped and took a look. So this is an LAX casing, and it looks perfectly fine, as does this one, which is another LAX casing. I have two of those. The one thing I did notice is that the High Point creates a sort of octagonal, and I will do some close-ups to show you this, but the High Point creates like an octagon. Here's the LAX brass out of the High Point, and you can kind of see the bulge I'm talking about right down in here. And I think you can kind of see those flat spots, but where it's a little easier to see on the case mouth, it basically has made it octagonal. I actually counted them. I think there are 8 flat spots. So here we go. But otherwise, in very good condition. And again, here is the head stamp. Decent primer strike, a little off center, but that is from the High Point 1095. And here is also from the High Point Federal. Come on, man, don't make a Federal case out of it. So here is the Federal case that we've all heard so much about, and same octagon, same flatness, same little bit of a bulge area, and I can feel it with my nail. If I just run my nail right here, I can feel it, a little bit of a bulge. So it's probably got the least supported chamber of all of the guns, but same. You know, no splits, no cracks, no excessive bloating or bulging. Chris Vector didn't do anything to the cylindrical shape. It didn't create any flat spots or anything, and there's no visual bulging whatsoever, none. Here's the case from the Chris Vector. Chris Vector creates this very interesting and fairly unique primer strike. It's like a little, you see that splash around it, like a little crater. So again, we can see the head stamp, LAX, and everything is in great shape down here. The case looks very nice. Good integrity, but boy, Chris Vector just beats the crap out of them. And this is very consistent. I mean, it's every single case, and some of them are much worse. And I remember now noticing that before, but I had forgotten. I hadn't shot the Chris in so long. But yeah, it just mangles it. I mean, it's not irreparable. Certainly, you can still reload that, you know, but it's just it's hard on them. Here are 2 from a Glock. You can see the head stamp here, and you can see the signature Glock primer strike. A slight bulge, you can see it catching the light right there. A little bit of a bulge, and again, we'll go back to that whole not fully supported case. But case mouth looks good, good integrity, and no issues. And since I have it, Here's the Federal from the Glock, and it looks identical. This LAX case is from the Sig P220, and it is probably, if I had to rate them all, this is probably the one in the best condition. Got a nice primer strike, and it just looks and feels very undamaged. Last but not least, in fact, last and maybe best, is from the Sig P220. This is an LAX case, and look at that. Beautiful primer strike. Very nice looking case ejected from the Sig. And ejected quite a ways, I might add, too. You got to put on your hiking shoes when it's time to go pick up your brass after you shoot it through that 220. Okay, so in summary, if there's something I don't like, whether it's a product I don't like or whether it's a company's behavior that I don't like, I'm very likely to tell you about it, as I did with the LAX 10mm ammo issue. But at the same time, if a company steps up and they make it right, I want to tell you about that too. It's only fair. In this case, LAX Ammo did make it right. They returned to me the quantity and then some of the 10mm that I had returned to them. I've tested it, and again, not scientifically, I just went out and shot a bunch of it through several different guns, and it works just perfectly fine. No issues at all. It is a different head stamp. It is an LAX head stamp, so I have no doubt that it is a better integrity product. It's got a better brass case. So I probably haven't made any friends at LAX. I'm sure they were, after they sent me the replacement ammo, I'm sure they burned all the files that might have had my name on them and things like that. So I'm sure I didn't make any lifelong friends, but will I buy from LAX again in the future? Almost certainly yes. I like LAX ammo because I like the way they bulk package it. I like that it is very affordable, and I like that it is reliable and good quality range ammo. And so yes, I can almost guarantee I'll be buying it again. Not just 10mm, but 9mm, 45 ACP, you name it. So to answer the big question, has LAX redeemed itself? For me, for this consumer, yes, they have. I feel like I have definitely been made whole, and I've regained some confidence in their products. So hopefully they will make improvements to their customer service model that equals the quality of the ammo they have available, and then I think they're going to be a serious contender in the marketplace. That is my opinion.